everyone. Welcome back to the Community Builders series. My name is Kate Katara, and today we are speaking with Dr. John Edwards. Dr. Edwards, a bold and creative patient advocate who collaborates with a broad spectrum of providers to give patients the best available care. Dr. Edwards was born and raised in Utah Valley. He received a BS degree in microbiology at Brigham Young University and graduated from the University of Iowa Medical School at the top of his class. He completed his neurosurgery residency at Indiana University, where he trained as one of the busiest and most well-respected neurosurgical practices in the country. Dr. Edwards has been practicing in Utah Valley since 2015 and has performed thousands of surgeries. So it's great to meet you, Dr. Edwards. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's dive right in. So prior to practicing at Summit Brain and Spine, you have done many things in the medical community. Tell us about your story. How did you get to where you are now?
You mentioned that I practice in Utah Valley. I grew up in Utah Valley, and my neighbors and my coaches and my scout leaders, many of them were physicians. And so I got to know a little bit about what they did and who they were, and I was drawn to that. So when I was in college, I worked as an orderly in the recovery room at the hospital that I now practice, and got to know some of these physicians even more, and really enjoyed the collaborative nature and the idea of practicing medicine in the community that I grew up. So after I went to medical school and residency, it was a very natural and desired place to practice. And so I came back to the community and started practice.
I love that. That's awesome. Can you give us a little bit of background on Summit Brain and Spine, how long it's been around, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so when I first started practicing, when you're in residency, you're gaining the basic skill sets to become the specialist of choice, right? So in neurosurgery, I was learning how to do craniotomies and spinal fusions and disc replacements, et cetera. The real skill sets, though, need to be refined. And so in the initial stages of my practice, I'm getting better. I'm refining my craft, so to speak. But I started noticing something in the community that was surprising. Utah Valley is a very collaborative, integrated community, but the medical providers were very much siloed from one another and did not even know each other particularly well. So I started hosting dinners at the local country club and asking the medical device sales reps to sponsor them. But what we were really doing is getting people together so that they could get to know each other. And we made it a case-based discussion format. We got the idea that providers could be asked questions and give their answers, and we would discuss cases together. Every single time we met, people would share phone numbers. They didn't even have each other's phone numbers. And they began to get to know each other better. And it was a wonderful thing. Well, this was perceived, I think, by my partners in the initial practice that I worked as a threatening behavior. They did not like the change. They liked the way things were. And they perceived it almost as that I was maybe building myself up, which was actually never really what I was intending to do. One of the providers even said, you can't really trust people in the community. And he also said, I know everything I need to know. And I really didn't like that at all. And so I thought, well, I think we could do a better job. So we started Summit Brain and Spine in November of 2019.
Awesome. I love that story. Thanks for sharing. What makes Summit different from other surgery clinics? I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but what's unique about Summit?
So one unique thing is we host a interdisciplinary conference every Tuesday morning. And we have chiropractors and physical therapists and pain management docs and industry representatives and data scientists and administrators and pain psychologists and nutritionalists, and the list goes on and on. And these providers get together and truly discuss the intricacies of patient management and care. And I find that when you put people in the same room and you get them to open up and to share what they think about something, this many minds approach, many minds do truly lead to better outcomes. And so we've seen through that effort and the community integrated with each other, better patient outcomes. We are not part of the same practice. We're not under one roof. We're not part of the same organization. Okay. This isn't like Kaiser, for example, in California, where everybody's part of the same organization. We're in different clinics. We're in different, we have different business models. We have different backgrounds, but we're all coming together as a community because we have the same goal, and that is the best outcomes for our patients. About 10 months in to Summit Brain and Spine. Now, if you think about the calendar, 2019 in November, everything really started to shut down with COVID in March of 2020. So we're a brand new clinic. We have barely gotten our insurance contracts all squared away and a variety of other things. We have kind of a skeleton staff at this point. And COVID has already disrupted a lot of the workflow. We thought that we ought to go ahead and do a conference. And I think it was a risk. It was a bit of a bold move. But we thought that it was valuable enough to get people together in an environment where they could even further that collaboration. And so we did. And we were the only major event that Sundance did that year. And we had 115 providers. We had a unique conference format because everybody was spread out. And we got them in small groups and we furthered that collaborative discussion. So one thing I think that makes Summit unique is this desire to promote and be a part of this many minds approach. It's not like the surgeon over there in their high tower, so to speak, receiving referrals, making decisions, and sort of doing their own thing. But we really, truly want to be integrated with the community.
That's awesome. I feel like that is very unique to the medical community. I wish more practices were like that. I love that idea. What excites you the most about what you do?
I think there's two things as I've thought about this. One is seeing the patients get better. One story, for example, is a neighbor. She seemed like she was she's fit, she looks healthy, she's all smiles, she's relatively young and married. And I thought everything was great in her life. Well, come to find out, when she was in high school as a gymnast, she started having back problems. And she really lost her identity because of it, because she couldn't be a gymnast anymore. And because of the pain, as many people do, she turned to medication and eventually narcotics, and then even stronger. And she done a route that was dangerous and fraught with problems. Well, she got sober, she turned her life around, she got married, and but she still had this underlying back problem and radiating leg pain. Well, it turned out she had a congenital issue, one that she had when she was a teenager. And to be able to go in and correct that surgically. And then when my wife and I were out on a walk in our own neighborhood, and it's 6 days after her spinal surgery, and she's out there walking too, and we get to interact with her, it just, that connection with people, seeing them get their life back and being a part of their life from a community sense is something that I guess get very excited about. The other thing that is just been really thrilling is this idea of connecting patients and providers through data and education. So all of our educational content is hosted in an app that everybody can get onto and use, patients and providers alike. They can get to know us, they can get to know who knows what within the community. And I'm very excited about that. And a secondary project is to allow patients to own their own healthcare record and put them right at the forefront of their own care, where they go from one doctor's office to another. And instead of, well, so-and-so has my records, and I've got to fill out a whole new set of forms. It's to say, I have my record. And I've already filled out these forms already, and here you go. And I get to invite providers into my network because I want them as a part of my network. And I'm empowered to do that through the technology that enables that. And I'm really excited about allowing patients to get the best care through this many minds approach by putting them right at the forefront of their care and integrating and connecting them with the network of providers through free flow of data and education.
I love that. That's awesome. I love the idea of also them being able to kind of own their own medical records. That is really empowering. How do you build community for your patients and the other providers that you work with?
Well, every market has a currency. And in medicine, the currency is trust. And so to build community, I think you're building relationships of trust. The patient-physician relationship is an empowering relationship when there's a level of trust there. Providers trusting one another. And community is based on people having the same unifying goal. So that trust is furthered by everyone being a part of the goal of helping the patients get their life back.
Right. That's awesome. What are some other ways you stay involved in the community beyond your work as a neurosurgeon? I know that you mentioned your boys are into basketball and a couple other sports. Are you involved in those things with them?
Yes. So a little bit of coaching and going to basketball games. They like tennis. We go skiing. We like to go golfing. We're active in the neighborhood. My wife and I go for walks almost every night. And it's fun to bump into people on the walks and check in on them and see how they're doing. And that's been a really fun way to be involved.
Yeah, definitely. I like to go on evening walks too with my dog. It's very relaxing and nice to see people. What is the most rewarding part of your profession?
I think, as I mentioned before, it's seeing people get their life back. And it's also developing relationships with colleagues and people that you work with. And it's all a relationship thing. I think that ultimately the accolades and other things that may come as you go through a medical profession, you get things up on the wall or what have you. The real reward is the relationships that you develop along the way.
Yeah, definitely. And the last question we like to ask everyone, that just because it's so unique and that everyone has a different answer, is what does community mean to you?
Again, I think community means that everyone has a unified goal. And in medicine, our goal is and should be to help patients get their life back. But it's really, what is it that we want to accomplish together?
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Thank you so much, John. For those listening that want to find out more about you and about Summit, where can they go?
Well, we have a website, summitbrainandspine.com. But I really think you ought to consider looking at our app, which is the Summit Medical Institute app. It's in the App Store. With Apple and Google, you actually have to write the code completely again. And so the Google one is almost ready because we had to go and write the code again. But the app is a great way to get to know us and to get to be in an environment separate a little bit from the social media environment, like a podcast environment where you're truly going for information that you want to know and not distracted by all the other influences.
That's awesome. Perfect. So everyone go visit summitbrainandspine.com and find the Summit Medical Institute app.
It's in the App Store.
Okay.
It will be with Android here in a couple of weeks.
Okay, great. We are so honored to hear your story, John. Thank you so much for being on today's show. And we're excited to see you all in the next Community Builder Series episode.
Thank you.